Welcome back to Got No Control podcast. And before I introduce my special guest today, I want to make some announcements. Got No Control official merchandise is now available. Make sure to check that out at www.gotnocontrol.com. And also, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Made Fresh Shop. Make sure to check them out. Great people, great prices. And with that being said, let me introduce you my special guest, Unit. How you doing today, brother?
How you doing, man? Good to be on the show finally.
Yeah, man, it's a long time coming.
Yes, it is.
I want to start by saying thank you for stopping by and giving me a little bit of your time to talk about this amazing thing that you contributed to the graffiti world, which was 50 millimeter. Let's start by talking about where are you originally from and how did you enter the graffiti world?
All right, so I'm originally from Hollywood, California, born and raised. I got into graffiti. It's kind of funny because I grew up on a actually like a big street, and we were actually grew up in a storefront sandwiched between apartment buildings and a liquor store, and our house was a prime target for graffiti.
Oh wow.
And it really bummed, like my mom was always having to paint over the wall, after the weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of weird, like my friend who used to write Jest lived across the street, and he was getting into graffiti and all this stuff, and we were skaters and and he started tagging before I did, and I was like, "Wow, what are you doing, dude? Like, like,
what is this?"
Yeah, this is like but I started to get it, like started to understand like what it was about. It's really more about like adventuring, kind of lashing out at the at society in a way. It's also a way of like you grow up in a city, like you're surrounded by graffiti in the form of advertisements, like logos, advertisements, billboards everywhere you're at. And it's like you look back to graffiti and its origins in the 60s and so forth, like American style fame graffiti, really kind of, in my opinion, took inspiration from advertising, because billboard advertising and printing methods started to get cheaper in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And that shit was just surrounding kids growing up. And you're like, I want a logo,
Definitely. I want to represent something. I want to stand out. I want to be part of something.
Yeah. And it starts to get addictive too. It's crazy how fast you can get addicted to that.
And at what age does younger Unit tell himself, like, okay, I'm ready to enter this, I want to be part of this?
I was probably about 16 or 17.
Okay.
We used to have this crew, the skate crew. It was called Hollywood Skate Organization, HSO. We were nothing. Nobody heard of us.
Okay.
But we would tag our little skate spots and stuff like that. And, we started to get to know, Jess started to get to know other writers, graffiti crews and shit. And he was actually kind of a troublemaker. It was probably a bad situation for me to be friends with him. But
so he was the first one to like take it serious and branch out, and then he brought you guys with him?
Yeah. I mean, he was he always wanted to be part of the big graffiti crews, like so he would put himself in and start writing. Like I think one of the early crews that he would start writing without permission was UTI, and IFK and all this stuff. And I didn't know any better. I'd just be like, all right, cool, you're from UTI, dope. And you kind of teaching me about the culture and everything. And I started to realize, like, okay, he's claiming crews without really being in the crews. And he generated some beef for that.
Oh, okay.
Some of that stuff caught on to me too. But
was it like some serious type stuff? Like, hey, bro, what are you doing? Or was it kind of like, hey, man, kick back, stop doing that?
If you're claiming a graffiti crew, it's serious.
Yeah.
Especially back then, I guess. I don't, like, they were looking for him.
Oh, okay.
And it was, he eventually kind of wised up, in a way, but he was kind of always a troublemaker. So that's just how we worked.
As a child, how was the thought process though? Because these crews are people that you guys are looking up to. Like, man, these guys are dope. I want to be part of this. and then to meet them in a negative way, that impact you? Like kind of like, hey, I don't want to do this no more. Or was it kind
Uh
of like, you know what, I could take it.
for me, I did keep my distance in terms of like, I got to know, one of my biggest mentors is Skill and
Okay,
Shot UTI.
okay, shout out
Um,
them.
Shout out to Shot UTI, man. He was it kind of crossed over because Shot was the singer of a hardcore band called Social Justice,
Okay,
and I used to play guitar, and he put me in the band, and he really showed me the ropes on graffiti and graffiti etiquette and culture. And he was kind of like, he was an environmentalist as well.
okay,
And he brought me into Earth Crew, which is where I met like Skill
dope.
and Nuke, and Smurf, and they had good heads on their shoulders at the time.
Was Crew a graffiti crew, or was it something else?
Earth Crew was a graffiti crew, and
Okay,
it was there was a woman named Helen, I forget her last name,
yeah,
but she was older than us, and she was probably of means, probably wealthy, I don't know, but
okay,
she took us on these trips. We went to the Chumash reservation up
okay,
near Santa Barbara, and we did Sweat together on a reservation with
okay.
like Shot and Skill and all those guys. And it was just like amazing to be immersed in this culture with these people, like Skill's a legend,
Definitely.
Shot's a legend. Social Justice was coming up, and we were playing shows. We put out a record. Eventually, Social Justice turned into Downset. I don't know if you even heard of them, but
Okay.
they were a band, like, they got signed to Mercury Records in the 90s
Oh,
and
that's
did a
dope.
world tour and everything. Yeah.
That's nice.
I got to tour with them in the early 2000s.
And for those who don't understand how it feels to be part of something like a graffiti crew, the brotherhood and the stuff you guys go through, can you kind of touch a little bit about those emotions and those feelings of being part of a graffiti crew?
Yeah, it's sort of like when you're young, you're kind of trying to find your place in the world, in school. Um, there's like this certain group of kids that didn't really fit into sports, or like
Yeah.
the academic groups and stuff.
Yeah.
You sort of like punk outcast type crowd,
Rebel.
rebel type crowd,
You
skaters,
ain't gotta tell me
whatever,
what to do type thing.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're kind of looking for your tribe,
Yeah.
and you don't really feel like part of a tribe necessarily, and you find other people into, like, especially like skateboarding and music and things like that, and graffiti was right there, and that becomes your world. It's so funny. And it's sort of, if you're a person with low self-esteem,
Yeah.
I felt like I kind of had a complex like that growing up. When you're getting up and somebody starts to recognize you, that feeling, like, it's like drugs.
Hey,
Like,
bro, you're so and so. No way.
yeah. I remember the first time somebody recognized me on a bus.
Yeah.
I was on an RTD bus, and I slapped up a sticker,
Yeah.
and this dude was just like, "Oh, that's you. What's up, bro?" And I was like, "Really? Like, you heard me? Cool."
You know who I am?
Yeah,
So-
it was like this, like, dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
And after that, you're just like chasing that for years.
Definitely. And being in Hollywood, I know you mentioned your friend Just, right?
Just, yeah.
Just, sorry. Is there anything else that you've seen that kind of gravitated to you, like any other writer or a piece that you might have seen that was kind of like, oh, that's what homie does. Maybe I want to do that, or no?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the names from back then, it's like, Jimmer was a name
Okay.
I'd see up. Sleaze, Chaco was on fire at the time.
Okay.
CBS, everybody from CBS, like Mir,
Yeah.
CBS, he used to destroy Hollywood. Like, that guy was up so much. I don't think he gets enough credit for how much he destroyed Hollywood. Skate, you know, I met Skate through Earth Crew, and then he ended up putting me in CBS, which was like, wow, I felt like I made it at that point.
How was it meeting him? How was his energy?
Skate's energy was, he's just a wise old owl. Like he was just wise. Like he was a leader that like understood politics.
Okay.
You know, and graffiti, a lot of graffiti, the way that I understand it, it's like, it's a lot like world politics. Like there's no rules. Like you know,
You're out there just causing a ruckus and living it day by day.
living day by day, and you run into beef. If you get up, you got beef. At some point, you're gonna get beef. And what Skate was really good at was talking to the opposition, setting up fair fights, you know, and that kind of stuff. And he didn't take any shit. Like if you were gonna be an asshole, you were gonna be accountable. And he would he'd set up these like one-on-ones, where the crew would be there, and it's like nobody's jumping in. You're gonna fight this one-on-one, and this beef's gonna get settled. And that kind of had the effect of keeping people in check, because they knew Big Skate wasn't going to go handle your beef for you. He was going to make you handle your beef
in a proper way.
In a proper way, you know, like no fucking, you know.
And was this only in Hollywood, or were you say it was all LA in general that he was able to do this?
I'd say it's all LA. Like Skate was from WCA, you know, he was from CBS, he was from LOD.
Okay.
It's like LOD, OTR, like these crews were more dominant maybe on the east side of LA. And, you know, CBS was kind of big around the Fairfax area, and WCA was like west side.
Definitely.
You know? And Skate had ties to everybody. He knew everybody. You know?
Yeah, that's dope.
So he would, you know, he was just a diplomat, I would call him. You know?
Dope, man. May he rest in peace.
Rest in peace, homie.
And the name Unit, is that something you always started with, or is that something that later down the road developed?
Nah, that was just a name that I started with, and I just kept it.
So that's your name from day one, Unit?
Day one, yeah.
Dope.
I mean, I think I was writing something stupid when I was on the buses, like in like 8th grade or something. I wouldn't count that.
Would you say you took part in the bus mobbing scene, or not really?
I mean, when we were hitting buses, we were toys, me and my other homie. In high school, we were just toys, doing stupid shit, stealing tapes from Music Plus or something and tag on the way home. But like when I started to get serious about it and chose the name Unit, you know, it's like you want to protect your reputation. You want to build your brand.
Yeah.
And I always felt like changing your name didn't make sense. I had a couple of friends that would change their names, and I'd be like, now you got to build your brand again.
You got to start from scratch.
Yeah. So.
And where does the name Unit come from? How did that come from? Is it something that was just like came up to mind, or did someone give it to you?
I was literally watching TV with my homie, and they said something about crash unit, and there was already a crash.
Yeah.
And I was like, what about Unit? And like the name, to be honest, kind of sucks, because like the letter U is just so simple.
Yeah.
And, you know, S is a better letter, K, like, Unit, I don't know. So, but it was easy to tag, and I had friends that would show me some hand styles and stuff, and I would develop
dope
from that.
And being from Hollywood, and I know LA was very dominant when it came to graffiti because it has so much going on over there. Was there ever kind of like a friendly rivalry in between Hollywood and LA, or you say everybody just got along?
There were a lot of rivalries. You know, back in the day, you didn't have social media where you could verify what someone said or communicate. It was all done, you know, on the telephone or in the street.
Yeah.
And rumors would spread like crazy. So beef would develop out of nothing sometimes.
Out of someone she said, he said type thing.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff was going around a lot.
But it was never like, hey, you guys are from Hollywood, stay over there type thing, was it?
No, and I mean, the like the area that I grew up in,
Yeah.
like, it's over by the like Coinga Pass area. We had enough access to the valley too, where we were out in the valley, or we'd go down to Wilshire or something like that as skaters. It was mostly like a skater thing
Okay.
for us.
Yeah.
But there were definitely crews that were just like, we were toys at the time.
Yeah.
It took a while to get to the point where like I was in CBS or something, but
But I believe it's fair to say everybody starts a toy.
yeah, of course.
Nobody wakes up out the womb knowing how to piece.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So I feel like, it takes time to develop, but it also takes, in my personal opinion, maybe having a mentor, kind of someone like
Definitely.
kick you down some knowledge, like, hey, do this, do that. And then you start learning, start getting better.
I'm so thankful for the mentors that I have. And I consider like skate and shot
Okay.
and skill a mentor, like those guys. We used to go play shows with Skill's band and everything. And beforehand, sometimes I'd get to go tagging with Skill or something. I'd be like, whoa, like,
And I know earlier you mentioned that your buddy was claiming these crews and it kind of caused beef.
Yeah.
At what point did you guys put that behind you guys and be like, hey, we're just going to be homies now?
I never I never distanced myself from people that I truly, like I grew up with the guy, and I just had to deal with it. But it was like I distanced myself from him. I didn't, we didn't go bombing together because I knew like this guy was just bad news. But he was still the homie. We'd grown up together. We'd known each other since we were like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So it's hard to throw people away for me. So
Yeah,
I just
definitely. I'm
had to-
definitely understand.
yeah, I had to kind of.
That's my boy. I gotta watch his back.
I mean, I just tried to not talk about him too much because there were people that I was, learning from that
Yeah.
had beef with him.
So you had to learn and do what you had to do.
And he kind of wrote himself out too. Like he got on, like he was kind of into drugs, and he kind of started living that lifestyle.
Oh,
that-
okay. One thing leads to another.
Yeah, one thing, I'm not even sure where he is now at this point. That's very
Hopefully he's doing good.
Yeah, hopefully.
And how was the police in Hollywood taking, like, I mean, because it was something that's semi-new to them at the time, and they're starting to see all this graffiti. They're seeing you guys getting up and bombing and stuff. How was the reaction from them?
I mean, the cops, the LA was bombed. Like everything in LA, like every pole down every street was bombed.
And what year we talking this would be?
89, 90, something
Okay.
like that. And, you'd have some run-in with the cops. I remember one time, I was bombing on Beverly and got chased by cops, and they caught me. Jess got away. And, man, it's just the worst, man. It's like, like,
Getting caught up, just empty-handed right there. Like, hey, man, what are you doing? You can't even say you're not doing nothing because they got you.
yeah, I mean, well, we ran. I was like running through backyards, and we got to some point where it was like, all right, let's get out of here. They're gone. And my homie was like, and I was like,
They're
fuck
around.
that. And I ran out, and of course they were there, and they fucking came,
So
kicked my ass a little bit, put me in cuffs, but they let me go. So
That's a good thing. So in 89, 90, coming up in Hollywood, a graffiti writer, what was available for you guys to use to actually paint as far as the utensil?
So we were, it was like Krylons and Rustos.
Okay.
And you'd get tester tips, those little tester cans. I don't know if they still make those.
I mean, now they got a tip for every size you need. So
I know, it's kind of awesome. Fat caps off glass cleaners, tester tips. That was pretty much, or stock tips. Like sometimes, like my homie Mech from CBS TK, he would paint a whole piece with stock tips, and that was like a point of pride. Like, stock tip, and then you write stock tip.
And
Nope.
were you like racking the paint, or were you how were you guys getting it?
Yeah, it was all racking paint. Like
How was the adrenaline while you were taking part in the racking? Like how was that?
it's fucking dopamine hits, man. It's just stupid stuff that you do as a kid.
You'll go up there alone, or you have like a lookout, or how do you guys go about it?
I always like to tell the story of Skate,
Okay.
and I went racking with him in Size one time,
Yeah.
and I had a rental car because my car got trashed in a car accident.
Okay.
So they basically, I wasn't a big time like racker. I wasn't like a big time
Yeah.
criminal like a lot of my crewmates were.
Yeah.
But we went and we did a tour of like hardware stores, and these dudes went in. They're like, just meet us in the alley, and I'm like, all right, and have the trunk open. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Suddenly, boom, out the back door, a trash can full of paint, and they just dump it into the trunk. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And we took off, and then we went to like another couple stores, and we had so much paint. Then we went to the motor yard and just painted all day.
How was the motor yard? I mean, I know a lot of people don't know about it, but some do. How was the vibe there? Like at being at the motor yard, was it all like everybody got along with each other, or was it kind of like you guys paint this day, we come next day type thing?
I think people mostly like piecers that went to yards mostly got along. I mean, there's definitely, there would definitely be shit that would go down, but for the most part, I think people would just show up and paint. Um, like tag banging hadn't come in yet as a thing, so it wasn't
Yeah.
totally scary, I guess.
How was it accepting that though? Because you come from a time where you just being a graffiti writer, skating around, painting, having fun, and then having to deal with these type of dudes or they're over here, like kind of like being aggressive.
It's like the tag banger thing kind of changed. It altered the landscape of graffiti. There
In what
was
way?
it got really violent. Like crews got big and powerful and violent, and it wasn't the graffiti that really sparked my interest. I
Okay,
wasn't a type of person. I wasn't a violent person.
you're just having fun doing you.
It was yeah, it was like an adventure. It was more for me. It was more of about the adventure and art, um, and music and things like that. It started in the probably early mid '90s.
Okay,
It started to get gnarly, violent. I would even say, for me personally,
yeah,
like it kind of drove me away. Like I retired. I mean, I was getting older anyways, but it
yeah.
was just like I would call my retirement like 95, 96. I was just like,
You think was it due to the negativity, or you say you just had something else planned for yourself?
I think it was a combination of negativity and like just okay, what are we doing next?
Yeah.
Like I want to take this art and fascination with letters and do something with it. And I got into graphic design. I ended up doing an apprenticeship
Okay.
at these dudes from WCA had a shop called Pawn Shop Press,
Pawn shop press.
and my boy Dante. I mean, I didn't know him at the time. I was introduced by Power to Power from WCA.
Shout out Power.
Shout out Power, my brother. He introduced me to Dante at WCA or
Okay.
Brisk. He wrote Brisk, but his name was Dante.
Okay.
And these two dudes had a graphic design shop, and it was like the early days of computer graphics. The computers were getting powerful enough to do, for somebody to
The illustrations and stuff.
do illustrations, because graphic design back in the day, you used to build these things called mechanicals, and you would glue and paste, your layout together,
Yeah.
and they put a sheet of tracing paper over it, and then they give you corrections and stuff like
Okay.
that. and that's kind of what I was learning in college at the time. And I went to these guys, you know, to their studio, and they were on Apple computers. They were on
Yeah.
like the best Apple computers, big monitors.
What year would you say this is?
95.
95.
And they had done their claim to fame was Cypress Hill. They did the Cypress Hill logo
Okay.
and packaging. And once, you know, in that industry, once you do like a big album, more business comes. And they were doing all the rap stars. They were doing like Common. They
Okay.
were doing Funk Dubious was another one.
Out of Hollywood?
Yeah. On
Oh.
Santa Monica Boulevard, little studio.
How was the industry taking graffiti? Was it graffiti based, would you say? Or would you say just graphic design in general?
It was like the Cypress Hill stuff was more, I would say, graphic design, like kind of David Carson
Okay.
influence maybe. And like Funk Dubious, the logo was more graph.
Okay.
You know, you could see kind of Dante's style in that.
And at this point, are you still keeping an eye out for graph, or you just kind of like, I'm just focused on this?
Oh no, I was definitely still keeping an eye on graph. I was still obsessed with graph. I just knew that I had to do something else with my life that was gonna pay me money, that wasn't gonna lead to a life of crime kind of thing. But graphic design was the perfect outlet for that. In fact, that's how I showed my portfolio to Dante. It was like some of my graph. I didn't have much in my portfolio. It was garbage, really. But I had some graffiti in there, and he was like, well, here's they gave me a machine, like an old Apple, to sit on, and like I read through the Adobe Photoshop book front to back. I was obsessed with, like, I was so excited to see guys making money from graphic design. It blew my mind.
And this was the early stages of internet.
The early stage. So, you know, Pawn Shop Press shared space with an early interactive company.
Okay.
So, you know, I got to see interactive content get made, like, and that was fascinating to me. And I'd always been a computer nerd. Going back to, like, you know,
since they came
kid.
out.
Yeah, you know, my dad was like a computer geek himself and electronics repair guy, so he was always dicking around with computers.
As a graffiti writer, do you think it's important to take that step? Like, as you get older, you think it's not important, but you think it's a good step to take? Like, all right, now it's time to make some money.
It depends. You know, like like some people would say, I guess nobody anymore really cares about selling out, but
Yeah.
you know, back then selling out was kind of a big deal.
So people would be like, hey, you're a sellout.
Maybe, but you know, it's like you need to be focused on your life and
your future.
And some people kind of lost sight of that, maybe, or never had that sight. And
especially if you have children at a young age, because you got some guys 16, 15 years old, have kids, and you're still out there bombing. It's kind of like it got to level out.
You got to level it out somehow. You know, you do, because it's at the end of the day, it can catch up to you, which I think nowadays it's sort of completely transitioned into more about murals and graphic design and things like that.
So you're at, you say it was called Pawn Shop Stars?
Pawn Shop Press, yeah.
Sorry, Pawn Shop Press. So you're at Pawn Shop Press. You're developing your skills as a graphic designer. And at what point do you put yourself together to start 50 millimeter?
Almost immediately when I started to find out about the internet, I wanted to learn how to make a website. And I had these photo albums that I'd been collecting of pictures of graffiti. I used to take pictures of everything, you know. So I had like hundreds and hundreds of pictures. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to make a website. And 50 millimeter Los Angeles was the first website I ever made.
Yeah.
And I just put my photos up there, scanned them, put them up. And there wasn't an LA graffiti site at the time. There was, some crews had put up some things. There was Art Crimes, which was like an international site. That was like the big site at the time.
I've heard of Art Crimes, but Art Crimes, if we could get a little bit more into detail, was that like sort of what you were doing, or? or was it a little bit different?
Well, everything back then was manual. So people couldn't upload photos to your website. They'd have to email them to you, and then you manually code it into your site.
Yeah.
And that's how Art Crimes, from what I could tell, Art Crimes was built that way. 50 millimeter was built that way. Where you would get photos, and then you'd have to like write the HTML code and put them up.
The struggle.
The struggle was real back then.
It's
And
not like
people send you
today.
photos. Yeah, now today you could upload it to anything.
So you would have to have people mail you in the photo.
email.
Yeah. And then you would have to get the image and code it into the website.
Yes.
Manually.
Yes.
Picture by picture.
Yeah. And then you'd have to make a directory, and you have to update their directory with like page 2, page 3, page 4. And I remember it was a huge pain in the ass, but I was learning.
Yeah.
And it was a valuable skill because I ended up doing a bunch of websites. I did Geffen.com, I did WarrenG.com, I did TomPetty.com.
Okay.
Because I was getting these jobs through, the guys that I worked for.
Yeah.
They would pass me jobs because they didn't do websites.
Gotcha.
And then I ended up doing some of these jobs, which back then nobody cared about the internet. Like,
that's not like today. People die for it.
Yeah, the internet was a pain in the ass. Like, oh, I gotta have a website. All right, well, just put something up, whatever.
So what year was this when you started 50 millimeters? Was it 95?
96.
96.
96. Didn't have the .com. It was just sitting on like a college website. And
what did your close friends tell you did you bring up the idea to them, like, hey, bro, I'm gonna start this website where I'm gonna do this, and that, or no?
I'm trying to remember. Nobody cared. They didn't care about the internet.
They were just, yeah, bro, whatever. The internet's gonna fade off.
The internet didn't make sense to people back then. It didn't. Yeah.
So, because you come from an era where the internet wasn't even really a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you were kind of adjusting to it day by day and building it. And at what point did you see 50 meter to kind of start gaining an audience and be like, oh, damn, this is actually working?
I would say once Dash 2000 UTI came in the picture.
Okay.
He contacted me. I'd never met him, but I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Like, he's a legend, old school. But he contacted me because he was one of the first, I'd say, LA graffiti writers to really be online even. Like, he was already doing like, I think IT work or something like that.
Okay.
So we developed a friendship online. He was such a cool dude. And, he, in a way, helped me develop 50 millimeter because he would send me these photos. And I think early on I had to make a decision because it was like, at the time you would put up a website for your crew and you didn't want to put up anybody else's work because you didn't want to give them fame or even people that had beef with you, right? And I was like, if this is going to be 50 millimeter Los Angeles, it's going to have to be about everybody, including my worst enemies, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got to be on there. So I did. I put people up that I didn't like, people that had beef with me. They had a spot on there.
Is it because they were reaching out, because you were going out of your way to put them in there?
I was going out of my way because graffiti writers didn't really get on the internet till, like, I would say the early 2000s. Wasn't till graffiti writers really started paying attention to the internet.
Did you ever have to deal with the issue where, like, hey, man, that's my stuff, I didn't give you permission to put it up there?
I never got any kind of feedback like that. I think people were just like, whoa, my stuff's on the internet. Cool.
How can I put more in there?
Yeah. But there was like this thing where, I would put some photo up on 50 millimeter and I'd see it on other sites. So, once I got some money together and really made a 50 millimeter LosAngeles.com.
Yeah.
Where people could upload photos, people could upload events. There was a forum. I designed the whole thing, and I had a programmer, program it. And
how did the vision come about? Like, I know you had the vision for the website, but how did the vision come about? Where, like, I want to post pictures where people could just put their name, you click on it, and you see all their stuff. Was that always the vision?
It was the vision because I was a lazy fuck. Like, first of all, it was such a pain in the ass to put photos up. And then second of all, it started to get popular and I'd get all these photos and I'd be like, and people would like email me back, hey, when's my photo going up?
Yeah.
What, you don't like me or something? And I'd be like, nah, man, it's literally, I'm working. I had a job going on. I was doing album packages and other websites. And so my desire was like, there's got to be a way to automate this.
Okay.
And back then, I don't even think there was like a WordPress. There might have been a WordPress, but there was nothing that specifically did what I wanted it to do. So I designed that thing to have it's actually a pretty elaborate fucking site. I'm kind of proud of it. But the downfall was that it's all proprietary code.
Okay.
Like, it's not open source code that, WordPress, you can find a plugin and all this stuff. Like, it was coded from scratch to be 50 millimeter. And I wanted a place where people could submit photos. I wanted to have editors. I wanted to be able to have events up there. I wanted a forum that was easy to read.
Yeah.
And
because a lot of individuals won't understand the struggle of maintaining that website, especially in the early stages of internet.
Yeah. That was it became, even with all that automated stuff, it became a monster. Like, there was a point where there was something like 30,000 unique people would go to that site every single day.
How many?
30,000.
Every day.
Every day.
Damn.
I'd say around 2006, 2007 was when that site was on fire. And there was so many photos getting submitted.
Yeah.
And, we had about 30, 40 editors that were granted permission to look at the queue and approve. And I had to make sure that, they couldn't delete things out of the queue, because there were people, I wanted people from all the different crews to be part of this. So I would get people that were associated with certain crews and give them permission, but like, they couldn't delete their, their rivals or whatever.
I screwed this guy. I'm gonna delete real quick.
Yeah, there was that kind of thing going on where it was like, I wanted to make sure that everybody got represented. And then we'd get this thing where it's like toys would submit their shit, right? Yeah. And you're like, fuck, I don't want to reject a toy. I don't want to tell me.
You don't want to be that guy.
So you got to figure out language to be like, yeah, like, we're not quite there yet. But that's why I started to come up with these categories like trash bins.
Yeah.
Because a lot of toys would send me a picture of a trash bin with their like tag.
Yeah.
But there'd be other people on it. And it was sort of like artistic, like a picture of a trash bin in grimy LA. And that was kind of my favorite category, because like, I told all the editors, I was like, look, we got to find ways to put these people in. So trash bins, throw ups, even if it's a little bit on the toy side, just put them in.
Definitely.
And, I wanted people to have their own category, like, made it easy. And there was controversy. Why did you approve that guy? Why did you give him a category, not me?
Oh, so you were dealing with that for a while.
Yeah, it started to get like crazy.
Because this was before MySpace, right? Before MySpace was a thing?
It was before MySpace. I want to say, 2003, 2004 is that 50 millimeter that you see online now was made in 2003. And that fucking thing is still there.
That's 20 years. And
the reason it's still there is because there was like, to go to the next level, like a Facebook or something, you'd have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. And we just didn't have that money. I think the original 50 millimeter cost me like $2,000.
But did you have like an office, like a whole 50 millimeter office? Or was it just getting work done like a shop?
Everybody was remote.
So everybody was at home doing this?
Yeah. Everybody was remote. I had my own office because I had my own like graphic design business. And there were, people that came out of the woodwork, like Gabe the Saint.
Yeah.
And I forget what her handle was.
Gabe the Saint?
He's going to kill me. Yeah. Gabe the Saint he's my second in command.
Okay.
On 50 millimeter. He actually became the editor in chief after I backed away.
Was that hard though, kind of giving you like your precious jewels and share them with somebody?
That was very difficult. But Gabe the Saint is like a machine. He's like a photographer, like a super talented photographer.
Okay.
And he was just on top of it. And he even, like, we had advertising revenue. He even got a bit of a salary. Like, I don't want to make it sound like we were big time, but he got, you know, some money, and I was paying also people to write stories,
writers,
interviews and stuff. Yeah.
How was it feeling though when you got that first little money? Like, damn, my website actually making me some money.
It was a great feeling. I mean, just like the hosting cost was starting to get crazy trying to find a host for it.
Yeah.
And I was very thankful that people wanted to advertise on it. I was very thankful. I would you know, go visit like Deuce at his shop, Maintain.
Okay.
Maintain started advertising on there. I feel like Maintain got a lot of benefit from that.
Okay.
And you know, I tried to maintain a relationship, pun intended, with shops like that, with people that wanted to advertise. We were trying to find ways to put the ads in, and I didn't want it to be like pop-up windows and crap everywhere.
Yeah.
I think we did a pretty good job of fitting the ads in. There's still an ad on there.
What would you say is the one place that 50 milliliter took you where it was kind of like a shocking experience? You're like, damn, I'm here because of my website.
I want to say Korea. Yeah.
What year was this?
97.
Jeez, that's a trip.
Yeah, I got a job from 50 millimeter doing an album package for a Korean boy band. And that was actually the job came from Pawn Shop, but you know, I was able to show him 50 millimeter, like, hey, he wanted a graffiti theme. It was a South Korean, he's actually like a legendary producer in South Korea.
Yeah.
And I got the job, and we were doing the album packaging, and the guy wanted us, I had my friend Light from THC. He did characters, really good characters, and really good letter design and stuff like that. So I hired him to do the characters of these like it was like a teenage South Korean boy band. It was hilarious. And the guy loved it. Isuman, he was their producer. He loved it so much. He was like, oh, I want to, you know, a giant canvas for my studio. And I was like, all right. So I priced out like a giant piece of canvas, and we were going to paint it and stretch it. Both of us, you know. And it was 10 foot by 30 foot. And I was doing all the math, and I was like, you might as well just like fly us out to Korea to paint this, because this is going to cost a lot of money.
An arm and a leg to get it down there.
So the guy did. He shipped us. We had paint, and we shipped it out there.
Because I'm assuming that now your spray paint wasn't that crazy in Korea.
There was that whole thing was just a logistics nightmare. We got a big case of Krylons. I think it was like 150 cans that the dude paid for. He paid for our flights. He paid us. It was a good deal.
Yeah.
And the guy had a lot of money and everything. And we had this crate of Krylon cans that was sent over there. And then it got stuck in customs for the entire time we were there. So we had to go to these like tiny little art stores in South Korea.
Yeah.
It's like,
pay the top dollar for the can.
we had to buy like a bunch of cans, and they didn't have the best colors, and we made do. And he had us, he worked us. We painted his whole studio. We painted a huge mural.
Yeah.
Then we painted live on TV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. While this boy band was dancing in front of a huge audience of screaming, you know, Korean kids. We're back there painting a wall behind them. That was part of the whole setup.
That's dope.
Yeah. We were on TV. It was crazy.
Do you think that's still out there to watch?
Probably somewhere. The funny part was I came home and I went to go get a burger at this like burger stand down the street.
Yeah.
That was run by a Korean family.
And then
they were like, are you? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, we just.
That's a small world.
Yeah.
To come home and.
So that was a cool experience.
Now that we mentioned Krylon, did Krylon ever reach out and try to be part of 50 millimeter? Because I'm sure they knew that their can was the weapon of choice.
Nah, as a fact, I remember specifically Krylon, the company, did not like, from the way I understood it, they did not like that their products were used for graffiti.
Okay.
And I think they did things to kind of discourage it. They changed up their tips and stuff. So I don't think those kind of companies, back then, graffiti was not viewed the way it is today. Today it's a lot more accepted
Than before.
Yeah, back then it was definitely not.
Look at you, hey, dumb kid, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I think companies like Krylon weren't into it, but there were these custom spray paint companies that came out, like Montana and stuff like that, came out in the mid 2000s.
How was that? Like being there, like damn, like you were there when it finally came out.
Yeah, I mean, by that time I was just pretty deep in my career and mostly just like a fan versus like painting. I started to paint a little bit, legal stuff with friends and stuff like that.
That's
like,
dope.
With LOD and everything.
Because 50 millimeter, it's an iconic piece of work that contributed to the graffiti world that a lot of people, I'm sure, could tell you thank you for. Do you get those people to this day saying like, hey man, thank you for 50 millimeter? Or have you ever got that or no?
There was definitely a lot of excitement around 50 millimeter back in the day. It sort of tapered off. I don't think too many people know what it is anymore.
Yeah.
At least the new school kids. But yeah, I definitely got a lot of props for 50 millimeter.
It would be an amazing thing to bring it back to like a source for just the community, just graffiti, where it's all about graffiti and it's just strictly graffiti. Bringing it back, or like, because you go on Instagram, right, and you got a little bit of everything, the whole world.
Yeah.
But if we were to have like 50 millimeter, where like everybody's on there just to talk strictly graffiti, that'd be dope.
I mean, at one point, I sat back and I was like, fuck, everybody in LA is on 50 millimeter. Like every writer, I was stoked. I loved seeing people like Triggs get on there.
Yeah.
There was all kinds of crazy shit going down on there, but it started out really chaotic and there was a lot of beef and stuff. But I felt like after a while, people started to get along more, I want to say. But I don't know, maybe that's just me trying to
smooth things out.
Yeah, just trying to like see a better
vision. And how is the response in 2023 for 50 millimeter? Are people still going on there and kind of like looking around or no?
There's still traffic there. It's still there. Every once in a while, someone will subscribe. Don't subscribe anymore, people. I can't even access the control panel anymore. It's like archived and frozen. So
you can't get into 50 millimeter anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal to get back there because it's just sitting there archived.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's new. That's
it's just frozen in time. Like if you were to go in the forums, there's no activity. Like what's sad is like, it was its own little community, and there was this point where the big social media sites started to eat away at it.
Yeah.
Like Facebook and even, I guess MySpace, but not really. But Facebook really kind of ate away at all the community sites that were out there. There was a lot of community sites. And Facebook was just like this Walmart of social media that just like spent, that's like a multi-billion-dollar site or whatever. Like there's no way little sites like 50 millimeter or, even bigger sites, out there could compete with that.
You have an experience when it comes to photography in the graffiti world. Because I was having this conversation the other day. Do you feel like it's important, like for example, me, if I find a picture that you've been having for a while, right? And then I decide to take it. It's only right that you get credited for that photo, or do you feel it's just like, whatever?
People still worry about that. I used to worry about that. That's why I had that little feature that would put a watermark on the bottom. It's a 50 millimeter.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I appreciate when people tag 50 millimeter and they put a photo up. They should. It's not even my photo most of the time or anything that, they should credit the original artist. And but I don't know, where are we at with the internet now? It's like images are everywhere.
Are you open to the idea of 50 millimeter coming back one day as being that community it was again?
uh I would probably just hand it to the new school or something like. But I don't think that's gonna happen. It's
You never know.
I don't know, these social media companies.
Instagram and Facebook shuts down. Writers gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
2023, is Uni still keeping an eye out for graffiti, or is it just kind of like, it's cool, just minding my own business?
I mean, I still appreciate a good hit. I still see some of the names out there, doing work. I still see it. I just it's just something that's just part of your life. So, you can't help it. And I still talk to the homies from LOD, and we got our little chat going on.
You still come out
group.
for like crew meetings and stuff like that, or not no more?
I'm terrible, especially during COVID. I kind of just like became a hermit and just stayed away from everything. But I'm also I'm kind of an introvert anyway in a lot of ways. So, but I do need to get out and say what's up to people.
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
That kid that wants to get into graffiti today, tomorrow, or sometime, or maybe after watching this interview, what would you say to him?
I think that it's not worth doing actual graffiti anymore. It's also, there's too much surveillance. You're going down a path. I think if you're really fascinated by the letters and all that stuff, like, yeah, get into it. But I would say steer yourself towards murals and things like that. I know it's not right for me to say this, I guess, but that's just what I believe.
There is a small rivalry, you could say, between street artists and graffiti writers.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? Do you appreciate both, or do you think that one takes away from the other?
I appreciate both artists, but the way the law works, if you're doing it with spray paint, they make it so easy to catch a felony. But if you're wheat pasting, which I've done a lot of wheat pasting actually, for a different cause, not related to graffiti, but wheat pasting, there's poster companies out there that do it. The law doesn't treat wheat pasters the same as they do spray paint.
Definitely.
So I would, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it at this point. There's too much surveillance. There's too much
to lose.
Too much to lose. Back in the day, it wasn't a felony. Back in the day, there wasn't even cell phones.
Okay.
You could remain anonymous for, there wasn't. It's crazy.
Someone hit this up. I wonder who it is. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think that sort of gave a lot of excitement back in the day, because you'd see somebody new up and you'd be like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
You'd have to talk to a bunch of people before you could even find out,
And when Unit's gone, what do you want the graffiti world to remember Unit for?
Just forget me, man. There's not that much.
Come on, man.
I mean,
you can't forget the godfather of 50 millimeter.
Maybe somehow 50 millimeter will live on. That's another weird thing. It's like everything I've ever made as a web designer is no longer, like 50 millimeter is still there, but it's kind of hanging on by a thread. Like the code is so old.
Yeah.
What's going to become of it? People in the future, there's nothing physical they can pick up and say, oh, this is 50 millimeters, like a magazine, like Big Time. Like I still got my Big Time and my Can Control magazines.
Yeah.
Those may survive for 100 years, but 50 millimeter is any website, any kind of information now. You're just hoping like the Internet Archive saves it or something.
I mean, I appreciate all of it because, you get to see things that you weren't around for. So you get to witness them via an image.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people need to, in my personal opinion, appreciate people like yourself having these images to share.
The
Because
history.
once they're gone, and the only way to get them is by knowing the writer himself.
Yeah, or go to CVS and have those photos printed out. You're gonna trip out. In like 10 years, 15 years, maybe we won't even be able to look at JPEGs. They'll have some new format. And then you're like, fuck,
we got AI now.
Oh yeah, you got AI.
I gotta just type what you want. Hey, my name in graffiti, yellow, purple, pink, boom. 5 different styles.
That is so true.
So it's like it's evolving, and who knows what's coming.
Yeah, I used to have to rely on like Nuke gave me a set of letters that I still use to this day.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, wow, AI.
Well, I want to thank you for stopping by and giving me your time and let us know the history behind 50 millimeter. Is there anybody out there that you want to give a shout out to?
I'll give a shout out to Gabe the Saint. Shout out to Dash 2000, rest in peace. Skate, rest in peace. Rob, rest in peace. All the homies from back in the day. Smile MBT, rest in peace.
May they all rest in peace.
Yeah, and to the guys like Skill, I just bought a canvas off of him. It's so dope. I love that shit.
Again, man, I want to thank you, man, for coming here. Give me your time. Hey, man, if we get 30,000 comments on this YouTube video that you guys want 50 millimeters back, I'll make it happen. 30,000 comments. Let's go. And I'm out.